So that's common.
Backward sunnies. Can everyone hear me? Right. Okay, our project was to help a school teacher called Ed to bring Feldenkrais method to the classroom. We made an assumption that he's going to be doing ATMs, not FIs. Might be a bit too adventurous straight up to start doing FIs. And a lot of touch and school kiddies might have been a bit wrong. We started at the top. The first thing we did is go to the headmaster and get some sort of approval to, we thought, to run a information class after school. There's a clear hierarchy in a school, so if we didn't start at the headmaster, we'd probably hit a brick wall pretty quick anyway. So we started with him. The next thing was to set a time and a place, which was pretty easy. You're in a school, there's lots of rooms, so that was pretty easy. The time we thought was awkward. The teachers we expected would be trying to go home as soon as school finished. Lunchtime would be busy because of the kids are still in the school. So we opted to do not a Monday or a Friday, but a Tuesday, Wednesday or Thursday and after school. And we decided to make the information lesson as short as possible, just so they didn't wander off, or encourage them to actually attend. So then communication, because they're teachers and they all do emails, that was the most direct way to contact them. So we're using the email to directly contact all the teachers that we wanted to come to our information session. And the email was, we didn't use Feldenkrais method because we didn't want to confuse them right from the start. So we called it mindful movement. And the message in the email, we explained that it was a gentle movement to help the students learn and cooperate more in the classroom. So we sort of teased them a bit that we might actually be offering something that they might be interested in. The main presentation, we broke it up into sections. Thanks to Jenny, she gave us a really good idea for a 1-minute wonder, which we would actually use as an introduction. Then we would go into a brief description of what we're doing and how it was working, and then we were going to use a short ATM. Some of Frank Wildsman, he's got some short ones in chairs, which we thought would do pretty well, and then a question and answer. So the presentation, the 1-minute wonder really impressed me. Jenny suggested to get them to lift their feet off the ground, which really does change the dynamics of sitting at a desk. So what we put on top of that was, while you had your feet off the ground, you had to get a piece of paper, write out the 12 times table on the piece of paper, make an aeroplane out of the paper and launch it. So, but that wasn't the best bit. Once they'd finished doing this, which hopefully made it all light-hearted and everyone was pretty comfortable and happy, having a bit of fun, then we'd ask them the good Feldy questions. How was your breathing? How was your jaw tight? Was your head free to turn? Did this reflect on the quality of your performance? Was your self-image compromised? So with these leading questions in mind, we'd get them to do the task again with their feet on the ground. And because we've led them into these nice Feldy concepts, we presume that the second attempt would be even better than if they hadn't been led. So that I see as a really good tool to knock them flat, which is selling the product. So then, pardon? Oh, okay. Righto. So when we've given them options here. we're going to have to go and sell it later. You know, it's not guaranteed what we're doing. But there's 4 options. There's one option which Ed just does it in his class, in his time, or he might share time with another teacher and do it in his class. Or Ed might have a flexible role within the school and do it for all the classes. Or Ed might do it for a group of schools and be in full-time employment doing it, which is sort of probably the ultimate thing. And then Ed will live happily ever after the end.
We'll sit on the side.
Can you hear me? Hi everyone. So our group target was ageing baby boomers, 55 plus, who are active caravanners. So we zoomed in on a group. This group includes grey nomads, members of caravanning clubs, and also casual caravanners that enjoy travelling. We would contact them through retirement villages, caravanning clubs, magazines such as RACV, grey nomad websites and community groups. What we would offer them: 1, help them become more alert, responsive and relaxed behind the wheel, thus making driving safer, less tiring and more pleasurable. 2, increasing driving skills such as parking will give a solid foundation for safe driving into their twilight years, benefiting both them and other road users. And it is a very important point for the future, because for many older people, losing their licence for whatever reason, it can be a devastating life change for them. Number 3, bringing ease in the setting up of caravans and equipment, thus preventing risk of injury, strain, bad backs, wear and tear. And marriage. Yes, definitely. Yeah, that was good. So the format, we were going to do a 1-day workshop to begin with, and located in caravan parks, retirement villages or local halls that have a car park attached. The program, yeah. The program, all ATMs in sitting, because the time would be 9:30 to 3:30, because that's a good time for being awake.
They're back for 5 since then.
Yes. So how we would start with a discussion, housekeeping, and telling them what the day holds, what we would do. Then we would do our first ATM, which is finding your optimal driving position, and that would incorporate a rotation and lengthening. Then we would have a discussion on the ATM. The second ATM would be expanding your visual field, peripheral vision, and both these ATMs are from the Busy Person's Guide to Easier Movement by Frank Waldman. Then we would have a discussion linking both ATMs, so we could bring it together, because yeah, it's all about the whole experience. The third ATM would be pointy elbows across the midline, finding ground through the pelvis and the feet, length, strength, flexibility in the ribs. Then we'd have a tea break, if we enjoy a tea. Yeah, after lunch, morning tea. Then we would have the practical application. That's where the car park comes in handy. So we would go out and get sitting behind the wheel with the seatbelt on, because that is a constraint that is part of the driving experience and has to be taken into account when we're doing the ATMs. And then we would do lifting and packing items into the van and incorporating how our movements are used in that. In the end, we would send them away with a workbook, which would include the 3 ATMs, how we applied it, and further workshops that we offer and things we would work on going forward. So that's it.
Okay, I've got Raymond's experience with my feet not touching the floor. Oh, glasses. Where did I put my glasses in all this? Oh, very good. So we're helping Tony, and Tony is a helping professional, and he's keen to use Feldenkrais to provide... Sorry? You were rude? Oh, were you? Imagine that. So we're helping Tony, and Tony is a helping professional, and he's interested in using Feldenkrais to provide an integrated range of services. And so we took that to mean that Tony is multi-skilled, and he's got skills in a whole range of areas that he can bring to corporate Australia. And so he'll be targeting the business corporations and all of their PD funding money that's just begging to be spent. So he'll be offering a 3-strand approach. Called Mind Your Body. And as part of that approach, there will be an offering of a daily reminder that will pop up on your computer. So all the people that are working there, all of that, it will pop up on their computer at a random time during the day, different times, different days, as a little reminder to mind your body. And these will be 2-minute movement experiences at your desk. They might be standing or they might be sitting, but they'll be at your desk. And so these will be a part of the package that is being offered to the corporate body for their workers. And there'll be things like looking at stress and anxiety, or what else have I got here? Oh, no, that's right. I've that over the back here, didn't I? Things like, so these will have titles such as All Fingers and Thumbs. And so we're thinking of all fingers and thumbs, these kind of movements for the people that are on the computer all day. It'll be Find Your Wings. Find your wings. Dead bird, dead bird, dead bird. Find your wings. Find your wings. It'll be Chatterbox. Chatterbox. Lots of jaw ATMs. So they'll all have these little names that will remind them of these different little movements. And so it'll only take 2 minutes out of their day for the 6 weeks that the program is going on for. Then, of course, more money can be spent by buying the package for the rest of the year of all of these 2 minutes to pop up for your employees. And so it's ongoing money even after the program's finished, you see. So Tony's very organised with that. So there'll be the 2 minute daily reminders, Mind Your Body. There'll be the once a week ATM class that will go for 6 weeks. And those will be ATMs that will basically incorporate all of the mini moves on the Mind Your Body daily. So they'll get it in a whole context of an ATM. And then when it pops up, they'll see it there as their 2 minute reminder. You see, they'll get the whole bit. That's it. They'll learn how to punch their colleague. And no. And then there'll also be an offering of 3 PD talks, professional development talks. So that'll be in one of their staff meetings or their office management meetings. And these will cover the area of stress and anxiety, because we're offering a whole well-being kind of program, integrated well-being kind of program. So we're also looking at stress and anxiety, and of course how movement is intimately related to alleviating some of that. Your mind and awareness. So we're talking about some of the thinking and awareness principles, bringing in all the... So just in those two, we've covered thinking, feeling, moving, and what's our fourth one? Action? No, moving and sensing, that's it. So we've covered those 4. And then the third talk will be an integrated approach. And so it'll be talking about the wholeness and all of those principles of using your whole body and trying to incorporate more of yourself in whatever you're doing, whether it's that's right, an integrated approach. Beautiful.
No.
So it's a 3-dimensional approach, or 3 strands to the what did he put himself? In the integrated range of services approach. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Laura.
You're in.
Yeah, I'm A.
That's it, thanks. So we had a corporate.
Yes. So are you starting or am I starting?
Oh, you
I'd start, yeah. Me, haha. So we're helping Chris Corporate. It's not completely dissimilar. We can probably pick the eyes out of some of your excellent presentation. Chris is worried about, he works in a big corporation, he's worried about stress and injury in the workplace. And so he's our contact into the corporation, and he's going to help us target right at the top someone that we're going to send an email to. He'll give us their, who would be the best person. We'll send their PA an email, just really a taste of saying, we think we can help your organisation improve productivity and reduce costs, and we've got a bit of a groovy name here, get them growth and efficiency through movement, get them up, growth and efficiency through movement. And, just a very short email. We will have basically saying we can do that by improving attention, flexibility, decision-making. So it wouldn't be a very long email. And attached to that, we would have a bit of an attachment with a blurb on a little bit more about the Feldenkrais method. We've done a bit of research. There are some evidence, some articles published on improving decision-making skills, increasing leadership integrity through mind training and embodied learning. So we just refer to those articles as well. And now I'm going to, we'll also be asking just for 5 minutes of their time. And now here's the person who is presenting the 5-minute presentation.
I won't be presenting this, but our pitch is many organisations around the world spend hundreds, if not thousands of dollars on engagement surveys. hoping to enhance their employees' workplace experience. It's a worthy gesture. However, I'd like to suggest that equally important to the staff engagement is an individual alignment. So with the model that I would share, or we would share.
You need that.
Oh, do I need that? Okay. No, it's okay. I can just point to the. So what we know in organisations is in sitting and standing, when the body is out of alignment, this causes stress and fatigue. This can lead to a lack of focus and attention. I'll hold it. Throughout the day or week, which ultimately leads to lack of productivity. What is often unspoken by employees is even with all this, people can be reluctant to announce their discomforts, etc., for fear that they may show weakness, lack of effort, inability to cope, and a myriad of other fears. You know, I don't know if any one of you have been in corporate, but often this is the hidden thing that is not actually spoken. So the value that we intend to add to your organisation is at the root of the employee's health and well-being, or lack of it, is a sense of identity. They can often feel like a victim, overworked, uncared for, etc. They shoulder on, thank you, because they have to. They have to feed the family, they have to keep their job. Either way, a sense of identity that is out of alignment with the work both suffers and underperforms. Our solution, do you want to read that one?
Yeah. So our solution, Feldenkrais, is the ultimate physical and psychological alignment process. It's non-intrusive and works with your preferred identity, so it's not challenging and is inclusive of a diverse workforce. And it's significantly cheaper than running a staff engagement survey, which could cost, that's it, the organisation. Sorry? So the benefits is it creates a learning environment and it can be done in the work environment. People don't need a lot of space or different clothes or what have you. We'll pitch a workshop series to the organisation so that people can just come and jump straight in. We're looking at solving issues that a lot of organisations face, which is fatigue, issues with staff retention, lack of focus, injury that all leads to absenteeism. And we're following Shah's amazing pitch. We're going to run into a little 2-minute miracle, which is going to be one of those, oh, look, how far can you see over this shoulder? How far can you see over this shoulder? Do a little bit of this and have another look, and wow. So that's going to that's going to grab the attention of our CFO, CEO, whoever we're pitching to, and then we'd like to cast out the invite. So would you be interested in us hosting a workshop series of 6 ATMs to a select group of your staff so they can experience it, you can get some feedback from them, and then we could look at rolling it out to the organisation. And assuming that that pitch is successful, Philip is going to talk a little bit about the workshop series.
Yes. So we really looked at the idea of them being able to do them at their chair so that they didn't need any equipment and that they could come in their work clothes, and maybe they would take their shoes off, but other than that, they could come as they are. So we looked at the first session was, because they're corporates and they're leaders, they need to have a bit of a challenge. So we looked at the crossing the arms that we did this morning, but we've given it the name threading a camel through the eye of a needle. So that's our first session, so that we're looking at engaging the full range of movement from the head to the pelvis and in with their feet in contact with the floor. So this is in a particular order. looking at pelvic clock, looking at dead bird, not deep bird, on the chair. Sitting, transferring the leg up the shin, and finally being able to transfer the weight so that you can bring your foot up. This one, which we did in the first week with Zoran, first session with Zoran. Then sitting to standing. I've left something out. And self-hug. Self-hugging. Self-hugging. And the idea behind this is that we can link all the knowns and unknowns to the strategies for them to be able to reduce their stress and fatigue, so that their alternative learning strategies in the workplace, instead of having a coffee, you could do this. Instead of taking a fizzy drink, you can have this. Instead of going for a smoko, you could try this. Instead of, how can you spread your attention so that you can alleviate your workplace fatigue and stress.
Yeah, I'll see. How's that sound? Just need to introduce Doris over here. Okay, so Doris is here. You just can't see her. This is our silent partner. Oops, hang on. We've got to get my little bits to know. So we're helping Manny Everidge. Thank you, Jenny. So we have a beautiful offering called Office to Oval. No, you want that? All right. Oops. Is that right? That'll do. Okay. We have a beautiful offering called From Office to Oval. Thank you to Jenny. And we are targeting men. So where do men like to... Sorry about that. So where do most men hang out? Sports. They go up, they train, they hang around this clubhouse, they watch sport on TV, they go to some men go to the pub and watch sport, whatever. So our desired client is an amateur sports person, and we're looking at mostly men playing ball sports, soccer, football, Aussie rules. Aussie rules if we're talking, oh no, what do they call it down here? Aussie rules, right. Okay. So therefore, we have said men, but really I suppose there's women now playing quite a bit of sport too, isn't there? So we shouldn't exclude that, but this is mostly about men. Most likely 18 plus and working, because we want them to be able to pay. And where would we contact them? Well, our initial offering would we think would be through the club committee. So we would be maybe doing an initial presentation to an offering to the maybe a monthly committee meeting where we could then have contact with the committee, president, possibly trainers, coaches, and then get that information out there. Once we have that approval, it could be an advertisement in the club newsletter if they have one, or possibly it could be, a lot of clubs I think have a closed group now, it could be offered through there. And we would engage them by, they would obviously want to improve their performance and avoid injuries. Or a speedy recovery from injuries, and then maybe an idea of how they could change what they're doing to reduce their injuries in the future. We think they need, what they want is increased flexibility, more options of movement, an ability to move in different planes or orientations of movement while being aware of the environment,
their inner and outer environment. And to Julie, they obviously need to be able to find the ground. Yes, don't you think? They need to know where the ground is, so they need to be able to run and kick, but know where the ground is, and then they know there's a little hole there in the oval and not break, not trip. And I think I'm going to hand it over to you now. Here.
Right, I'm going to use this. Thank you. Yeah, the thing about the ground is that Victorian footballers fly, and they actually need to use the ground to lift. So this idea of finding the ground is so important for them particularly. I mean, it's important for all footballers. And we looked at when they were available, and the other option was to do it actually as a club-sponsored project, and the whole team would do ATMs with us. So there's two ways we could go about it. And we looked at evenings being when they were available, given they're working, and that's probably pre-season before they get into heavy training. And that what we would offer initially, so they could get an experience of it, is a 2.5-hour workshop that right from the get-go, we were going to have a 3-minute miracle rather than a 1 minute or 2 minute. We were going for a bit longer. And we were going, again, sitting one though, we were going to use the senior citizens sitting one. So they'd have more flex and more rotation. Is that what it does? I haven't done that one. So, and in the workshop, we would then do, sorry, I didn't do
handwriting. So we were going to do, then thinking that we've got men and we need to be pretty concise because men don't like a lot of fluff and bubbles. So a 3-minute miracle followed by a 45-minute ATM. Did we have 45 minutes? Even that sounds a bit much. We had coordinating flexors and extensors, and then a short break for questions integration, and then 20 minutes for arm circles. I think she was thinking the one laying, you put your hand out the side, rolling a bit to the side. And then more questions and principles, and then a further offering for FI and ATM. Is that what we said?
What we were going to do was do the 3-minute miracle pretty much after we'd said hello and those sort of things, and then just give a brief overview of some of the principles before we went into a longer ATM, so that they then could take those ideas into it, as other people have suggested in theirs. And then, of course, at the end, as well as the opportunities for them to come and do ATMs with us, it would be our chance to say, well, look, you could do FIs, and your wife and children or anyone else who needs help could also make use of this, and just give a bit of a brief introduction to the possibilities.
And have some brochures.
And we had wonderful glossy brochures all prepared. They looked beautiful, but unfortunately they're still at the printers.
You can read it all, I don't know. I don't mind, Anna. Do you? Okay. Right. Daisy Everlast is a gardener, and she has lots of friends who are getting a bit older and love their gardening and want to keep gardening
but she sees that some of them are struggling with that. So we have, Daisy's been in contact with us and has engaged us to help because she's heard about Feldenkrais. Can you hear me?
Yep.
And so we have identified then that the age of the client is over 40, all genders, and their interests: growing things, permaculture, eating healthily, socialising and sustainability. So socialising within the gardening interest as well. They are, they're all very independent people. They're middle-aged or older and retired. So they all have, all have the gardening interests. Our points of contact, the local community gardens, retirement villages, libraries. This is where to put our flyer, and or perhaps have our information put in their regular newsletter. Also, we thought we should try specific interest groups as well, as Daisy suggested some of those to us, like local flower shows, tell me, the flowers.
Hospitals,
Yeah.
places where people, lots of people love to garden.
And possibly the newsletters of specific interest groups like the Australian Native Plant Society, local branches, the Orchid Society, and others.
Can't read my
You.
You're right.
Yeah. It's really bad.
Yeah, yep. They think they want to garden easily, to get more done, to be stronger, to tire less easily. They want to squat easily and do more digging. And they want to, when they've finished their gardening tasks, they want to have pleasant memories of their gardening. So we think they need more holistic global movement, more stability and balance coming from the ground, flexion, the ability to flex and move in many directions, and lightness in the arms, in the head, and everywhere. We think they could accept working for shorter periods, taking breaks more often, and we're going to try that with them. We think they could accept learning about their breathing and learning to notice their breathing as monitoring their ease. Also ergonomics in general, a broader coverage of ergonomics, would you say? And again, knowing when to stop, when to take breaks. And understanding a bit about how ATMs will help them with find ease in their movements. They currently spend money on plants, seeds, soil, tools, composting. They spend at least 2 hours a week in the garden, but often more. The program we're going... You mean I've only got a half minute left? Yeah. Okay. Where's our ATMs?
You wrote the program down.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Hold it for you if you like.
Okay, we are going to offer a workshop. We were thinking at the structure of the workshop, managing time. It will be offered 3 hours and a half of the workshop, beginning at 9 in the morning until 12:30. So our activity it will commence with a little talk, but interactive, asking them what they need or what are the difficulties when they are gardening. So after that, we will offer our first ATM. It will be about flexors and extensors in sitting.
Yes, that's the one.
The one flexor and extensors in sitting, and with the reference movement, weaving.
Weaving, yes.
Yes. So after that, we will discuss about that. Then a morning tea, and then the second ATM we were thinking it will be useful for them. It's rolling feast.
Oh, yes, this one.
Rolling feast. And the third ATM about flexors and extensors, but lying in the floor.
Yeah.
When we were talking about this workshop, we had a lot of ideas. We need to choose. So the other ideas are out of the workshops. The workshop we will offer a series of lessons to them to sign up.
So our described client, we decided to focus on professional dance troupes.
We had 70 people who wanted to dance.
What was that? Sorry?
We had serendipity who just wanted to dance. Yeah.
Yes. And from that, we looked at doing professional dances and narrowed it down to professional dance troupes, being that, we could actually approach them as professional bodies and utilize their spaces and know that they have a certain amount of commitment already and a certain amount of, camaraderie that they could share and bring together. So that would obviously include male and female, employed, so they could pay, which is good. The points of contact would be professional bodies and guilds, dance troupes, dance schools, even people like Zoran or Beck, who knows, what was it, the head of, don't you know, head of some dance body?
Yeah, the Aboriginal.
Okay, you're not.
Avoids me.
Okay, Bangar.
Yes, thank you.
Bangar. And aim at dance teachers as well. What we assume they'd want is greater range of movement, working with injuries or to prevent injuries, and generally more awareness around their dance and their dance troupe. What we think they need is more adaptability, to be able to break down what they already do and bring more awareness to how they do it, and so they can improve on how they do that. Obviously minimizing injuries, finding more balance, and finding and using the ground. We think they could accept exploring movement possibilities and finding more ease and freedom within their chosen form. They currently would spend time on things like myotherapy, chirotherapy, Pilates, yoga, a lot of physical training, I guess, expenses, as well as all the medical costs that come with injuries like anti-inflammatories and doctor's appointments. In terms of how much, in terms of how much time and money, we're thinking they would spend 3 to 10 hours a week on all of that. You know, if they were going to the gym regularly, and they'd probably be spending things like, you know, maybe $200 to $350 a week just to maintain themselves in a sense. So, you know, our possible points of leverage would be injury reduction and recovery, be complementary to their dance, and also that we're willing to come to their studio, seeing as how they'd already most likely have a space that they already train in and something that's familiar to them. Do you want to go from there?
Yeah. So we came out with this workshop. It's called, you keep changing the name. So now it's called Dancing to Ground, to Grow?
Yeah. Dancing Ground.
Dancing Ground. And you've got 3 aims, which is explore, expand, improve. And we're thinking about doing for a specific school. So we contact the director of the Kiki Collective School in Melbourne, and she knows the students, so we got a venue. We don't need to put a lot of effort in marketing, so we talked to her. She likes Feldenkrais, and we got the workshop on Saturday morning for 3 hours. So the schedule is going to be when people arrive in the room, we're going to have 10 minutes discussion and see what the people knows about the method. And if they know, or if they don't know, and we talked to Beck when Loki was having a fight about if they know, if they can sense themselves what they know about it. So we have more idea about what they know. And then we're going to show a video about a dancer who had injuries called Michaela the Prince. And she's a professional dancer, and she had injuries, and she found a lot of benefits from Feldenkrais. So 10 minutes of video showing her just really empower the room. This is working. And then we have one ATM based in rolling, and not telling much to them yet, just observing them the first hour, see how they're doing, where they're grounding, observing them. And then we had a quick break, like toilet break, because the dancers, they don't really eat in between classes. Professional dancers. Oh, sorry, Felipa. Sorry, that was a joke. And we focus in the second part of the workshop, we focus in 3 things. So awareness, grounding, and reversibility. And we probably do the same or similar ATM, but this time rolling to sitting and sitting to rolling, and then rolling to sitting and to standing, so they can integrate in everyday life, or when they're going back to their practice. They think about how they did it. It's reversible, it's not reversible.
I think that's the workshop.
We're helping Crystal Handley. She's a masseur and she has a few other complementary modalities. She would like to include Feldenkrais in her range of services. So we are helping her introduce it to her clientele. Do you want to talk about? So Crystal is going to target kind of 35 to 50-year-old working women who are kind of open-minded, health-aware, a little bit like the dancers, that they're into maintaining their health and fitness and well-being. However, they're quite busy working, so they're a bit on the stressed side, and probably not being so active in their actual work role. So they all have a decent disposable income because they all work full-time. And where am I writing? So points of contact, this is probably more actually related to how we were going to advertise the workshop, I think, is basically online, because most of them will be online, flyers, referrals through networks, because it's the venue, which these guys will talk about later. We've got a venue that's already in the healthcare kind of area or industry. And basically the people we're going to target, they're quite committed people. So they're quite focused with their work, but they're quite focused on kind of being healthy as well. And they have good friends and networks. In terms of an engagement strategy, or what we thought that they wanted, they're probably at that age group where they realise they're a bit stressed. They're maybe not breathing so well. Maybe things are starting to happen in the body a bit with doing more office-based work. So they're realising that they want to, maintain their health and be comfortable in their bodies. What we think they need is probably more awareness around how they're moving, and to learn some, we were thinking, some self-help skills or tools and techniques related to awareness in their physical bodies. Something that's we're not promoting a quick fix, we're promoting that kind of long-term health benefits. Sorry, I'm just rambling here. I'm trying to read my writing. We think that accept. We were going to just do an introductory workshop. We're not doing a series or anything because they're quite busy people, and we want something that's not too long, not too big a time commitment to start with. So it'd be an introductory type workshop, which would hopefully then kind of generate interest for more. And the same as the dancers, really, they spend their money on already things like yoga, physio, Pilates, maybe Qigong, do some sports, so they're quite physically active, and basically available more out of work hours. So Crystal already, with her other modalities, works out of a clinic, a natural health clinic. So that in itself is quite a good network for her. She's going to use the venue to run the workshop, and therefore also be able to access the people who are already coming there, and advertise through their flyers, through their newsletter. And we already talked about where else we would advertise as well. So local newspaper, referrals also from the other professionals who work at the clinic as well. Who think that Feldenkrais might be good for their clients.
So we're looking at doing a 3-hour workshop on a Sunday afternoon. That's going to include a bit of talking, a bit of discussion, a couple of ATMs, and also afternoon tea, because these stressed women really deserve some time out to actually enjoy themselves.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. Just
So we'd come up with a little theme for our couple of ATMs and everything that we'd like to get across to them. So we made flyers and things. We named it Effortless to try and get them understanding how much you can effortless in all ways, shapes and forms of life. What other bit haven't we done? So we were thinking to do, about a 3-hour workshop, probably just 2 ATMs in there, and if we needed to fill in time, we'd do some little 1-minute miracles or something. But to just start them off with a pelvic clock, because I would think most people get some form of effect from a pelvic clock if they've never done anything. And then the other ATM we were thinking to do, I don't know the name of it, but slidey we called it, the side lying one where you start freeing up everywhere. I think that was about it, is it? Yep, one more thing.
Just going to add one thing that we were going to use like as a, I guess, I can't remember why there's 2 distinctions when we're teaching. One is to have, I'm going to say learning outcome there. I don't think that's what it was. There's like a movement kind of learning and then a principle of learning. So with that whole theme we were going to tie through of, less is more with movement and really having also an awareness of, how the breath is connected to movement. So how, so people can identify what efforting is and not, because they probably won't know what effort is, and to really kind of have that as the background kind of learning. And then also maybe to try and tie that at the end of getting people to tune in about how or where in their life do they effort, maybe too much. It could be physically they're tired at the end of the day, or they're, could be psychologically they're trying too hard, or emotionally, whatever it is for them. And then just trying to, if they've had an experience in an ATM of efforting less, kind of trying to think of that thing they do or they think about and bringing in that feeling, if they can recall the feeling of effortless, to apply to those situations. So it kind of has a practical application.
So, still on? Yeah. So as you listen to your colleagues, maybe there were times when you thought, oh yeah, I could take those ideas and do that with some people in my community. Or there might have been other times when you thought, I don't think I want to work with that group just yet. And so what would it be that makes the difference? Is it your own sense of understanding of the context or what is meaningful? Do you need to know something about dancing to work with dancers? Do you need to know about football to work with footballers? And at some level the answer is yes. But does that mean that I can't go and work with musicians because I'm not a musician? So sometimes we might want to think about, well, who would I work with? Would I run the workshop for footballers with a coach that I'm a mate of who knows about that context and has the connections with those people, but that I can add something to what they know and what they do? A number of you identified the importance of, getting the headmaster or the managing director or whoever on board, and whonology beats technology hands down. we need an in, just fronting up with a nice glossy flyer these days, or an email even less so. How many emails do you get that go straight in the trash? So knowing someone, having that personal introduction is going to be profound. But you've done some great thinking. You've, you know, in this artificial context where you haven't necessarily had access to go and talk to people in these particular interest groups, you've had a stab at guessing what their wants and needs are. What else would you need to do if you really did want to go out and work with them? Is there some way that you could sort of test the waters a little bit, see if you've got your wording right, or see if there are other more burning issues that would allow you to frame your offer in a way that's going to get them excited? So, well done. We'll do more. In a minute, we're going to have a brief refreshment in our pause. And we're going to come back and play a game. Yay. So I've been reflecting over the past couple of days that we spent, all of us, a big chunk of our lives learning the most difficult things, walking, talking, becoming a human being, in an environment where we had no idea what was going on. And somehow we survived. And, you know, I know some of you have felt like there were things that you didn't understand this week, and maybe you thought that was some reflection on you as a human being. And some of you have kind of been comfortable to sort of sit with that and just absorb what you absorb and, you know, hope for the best with the rest. You know, we've got the videos, we can go back and review things. So the aim for the rest of the afternoon is to see if we can figure out some of the things that we know how to do, so we can identify those and confidently take those away and celebrate a little bit. Okay, so just a few minutes to reorganise, and then come back, bring your cup of tea if you want, and you'll need a partner.